Hi folks, Frank Lamb here from the Automation Academy and Automation Consulting. And this is a Mastering the Machine webinar for the Automation Academy for September 23rd, 2021. My guest today was Alicia Gilpin, also known as Ali G, who does systems integration out of the Seattle area. Hope you enjoy it. What I do is I have this thing called the Automation Academy, which it's a nice logo up at the top. And I started it actually almost a little over a year ago. I actually started building this website, and it's like a membership site. And I joined a group called the Automation Academy. I mean the Membership Academy, excuse me, not the Automation Academy. Okay. And the Membership Academy teaches you how to build membership sites. And they said, you need to have live events regularly, right? So I practiced a little bit last August, and then in November started doing them regularly every 2 weeks. And since then, I don't do a ton with the Automation Academy. I'll kind of explain what it is, but I have kept these webinars up, and I plan to keep doing that because it's really good practice, if nothing else, and you meet cool people. So where the name came from is I made a document a long time ago on my blog, and it's a download, and it's called Mastering the Machine, and it's about specifying equipment. And at that time, I was just out of Wright Industries, which is a big machine builder, and they build and bid a lot of equipment. And so I wrote this thing as a little help file, and I put them on my websites, which are these two here. And I got feedback from people in the Automation Academy after I started that website that, hey, these PLC classes are fine, but that's not really why we're here, right? Because there's people like Vlad and there's Sean Tierney and a lot of people that I know that already have PLC classes, and I'm just another guy, right? So rather than only putting PLC classes on there, I started putting a lot more about systems integration, which interestingly enough is the topic of our little webinar today, right? System integration. So this fits right in place. I noticed Carlos is here. Carlos was like my second or third guest on this show back in, I think, January. And I actually drove down and got to meet Carlos twice, as a matter of fact, in Tampa on my way to a job. So that was cool. I've actually physically met him. So that's
nice.
Yeah. Our guest today is Alicia Gilpin, and you can hopefully see her here in the upper right. Even if you can't see yourself on this, I'm not sure if you can or not, because what I see is not what you see. But anyway, I have seen that there is a little picture of people up in the right-hand corner when I share screens. So hopefully you're on there and can see yourself, and sometimes other people's faces pop up too, but I haven't figured out how that works. Anyway, so I'm going to start off with this, right? This is a picture that you posted with your gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you looking to
it's some of the stuff I use to build the turbo encapsulator. Yes, absolutely. Some of my materials.
Yeah. So I'll show you a couple of the pictures ahead of time that I have set up. So I do have some of your stuff here.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
So I stalked you. Right. And then
that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So I try to do that for everybody. So I think it was Dave Griffith or Vlad was kind of mentioning that, hey, man, you kind of stalked me and you read up all my stuff. And I mentioned that he was really into woodworking, which nobody else knew. And it was like, okay, that's kind of scary. Are you sneaking around my house or whatever?
Well, once you put that information out there, like it can't be considered stalking, can it? Like,
no, it really can't. Although I had to go.
Like you made it public, right. And I made these public.
That's right. So I did go to your profile. Of course, this is through LinkedIn, which is where most of the people come in here. Sometimes I have a Facebook group. Sometimes people come in there, and of course, the Automation Academy itself. There's one member probably from there showing up today. So anyway, I figured we'd just start out. With this, are you looking to try out a new systems integrator? Of course, you're in Seattle, right?
Yes, I am, but I will operate all over the United States.
Very cool. So how much traveling do you do? Do you do a lot, or do you mostly work up there in the Northwest?
It's going to be a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I love travel. I love, I guess, being immersed in a new culture for a week. and learning a lot about, there's so many microcultures within the United States. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really cool.
So my daughter actually lives in Seattle. I don't know where you live in Seattle, but she lives.
I'm in Renton, actually.
Renton. So you're south. You're where her husband's parents live.
Okay.
Yeah. So she lives in up close to Capitol Hill, where you guys have the free zone up there. She lives in Madrona.
That's gone. We cleaned that up.
Yeah. She lives in Madrona and works she has a little office in Lachey. So really cool area, but again, a little rainy for me, but I definitely know where Renton is.
Okay.
So you know a girl, huh?
I know a girl. Yeah, me.
Yeah,
Yes, I started a systems integration firm. And some background about me and why I guess I did that is I actually got my schooling. I have a chemical engineering degree. And so I thought I wanted to be a process engineer. And that's where I started. And that's, where I kind of got captivated by engineering. It was my first engineering position, my first official engineering title. And I worked for an algae company, and I had a lot of different bosses because they did have somewhat of a revolving door on the management side, but I had lots of really, really cool teachers that I still talk to. One is George Bias, actually. He's a process engineer who has a lot of experience in pharma and food and bev and using sanitary. So he showed me like sanitary piping, and that's where I first saw that entire realm of like the pharma grade piping, because I also had other bosses that showed me like, we're going to do all this in CPVC. So, I had the entire range of just like, bosses. I also had another boss who, he had a PhD. So everything we did was just like, it looked to me like a research paper. And so we would have equations in there, and I was like, this is okay. This is more than I thought. So I guess I saw so many different types of management, and I guess I learned really early on that I loved the pharma side. And so I kept my eye on that. I've always been interested in process equipment, not so much on the like reactor side, because chemical engineers, know a lot of chemistry and they can do a lot of chemical reaction stuff, but I'm more interested in separations or phase separations, or just, material separations, or just moving stuff in piping. I always have been fascinated with that. But eventually I actually got into machinery and worked for multiple OEMs that built machinery. And then I got into the control side of that. And I got into controls in 2015, and I never looked back, and I never will. I love controls, because controls was that last piece that I couldn't control, literally. As a process engineer, I'd want someone to go, stroke the valve. Can you please open and close my valve? I can't even do that. I'm a process engineer. I bought it. I specified like where it goes, the piping around it, all of this stuff about it. And I can't even play with my own toys. And so that, I guess, got me into, what's going on in these panels. And between, the OEMs and my process job. And at one point I actually ran a UL shop, a UL 508A shop, and went through the process of becoming UL 508A certified. So, went to the trainings and the meetings and all of the, they do a lot of audits. They'll do lots of surprise audits, and went through, the whole thing with UL. I was the UL gatekeeper. And so, with all this experience that I've, managed to get within 10 years from college, I started my own firm, because I want to apply this stuff everywhere if I can.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm up to, and that's how I got into systems integration. But I kind of pride myself in not, or I guess in specializing in both process and machinery, because I will specify instrumentation for a process or for a machine, and I can also do hazardous classified locations. So we need to do intrinsically safe or explosion proof, and the barriers and when all the wiring and conduit for that, I can help with that too. And that's one of my interests is working with hazardous classified instrumentation, because that's an entire realm in itself. And I think that's exciting too. But I love all things process, and I love machinery and processes. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with that except get out there and do it. Oil and gas?
Yeah.
I haven't yet.
Okay.
So my experience with it came from aerosol. So aerosols, and then some like wastewater situations where they want like explosion proof or intrinsically safe float switches, for example. But yeah, so that's where I got it from, but I'm absolutely ready to, start learning all the APIs and just get into as much. I do love Fisher valves. I know they do too.
Yeah, they do.
I know that's close to their heart in oil and gas, is those green Fisher valves.
Yeah. And you do, you mentioned food and beverage, and I think I saw something about wastewater. You do wastewater treatment plants?
Yes, and yes.
Okay. Cool.
So I did a lot of research back when I was a process engineer, because we were trying to actually use, wastewater and algae together. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the processes within, wastewater, secondary, tertiary, all of those different types of filtration and clarifiers. I actually went to a site in Montana, I think, and I saw all the ducks. Ducks really like clarifiers. It's kind of nasty. But sorry. Anyway.
Cool.
Yes, I want systems integration work, and I will work really well with, either machine builders or people that are just running, traditional processes with PID loops. So I'm interested in all of it. I think it's all very, very cool.
Very cool. And do you have any people working for you, or is it mostly you at this point?
It's me right now, but I have several partners with their own businesses that have other specialties. So I team up to make bigger groups to attack larger projects.
That's right. So James Dean, you mentioned him. He's probably a good contact for you out here.
Yes.
And
James Dean is awesome.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with a company called Automation NTH, and they are in the life sciences area. They do systems integration.
Cool. Okay.
And their expertise really is not kind of where yours is. So you may be a good asset for them that we can talk offline about possibly introducing.
Cool.
They're here in my hometown. I do a lot of more training and content creation for them than anything else, but pretty good sized engineering firm, and they're starting to lean heavily into life sciences. That's their thing now. A lot of Dexcom and West Pharma. We do a lot of training for them and stuff. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem. And let's see here. We have I do get the little chat here. Joseph says a whole lot of experience. Awesome. Yes, you do have a lot of experience for the years that you
amount of time. Yeah.
But since 2015, you say you never looked back. You've been doing controls the whole time.
Yeah. So I went to I started in a systems integrator, a huge one. Actually, before it was owned by Rockwell, I started with Maverick.
Yep.
And so they got me my, they birthed me into controls sector because they were taking kids straight out of college. So chemical engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and just saying like, we'll teach you what controls is about. It's a really cool program. And they weren't just taking engineers. They were actually they did a really cool program with a lot of people from the Navy that just got out of the Navy, and then taught them controls too. It was really cool. But I didn't stay there very long because I found an opportunity to work with an OEM, and OEMs, unlike systems integrators, need their controls engineers to do everything. Whereas, the systems integrators have more resources, and so they can say, okay, you guys will do HMI, you do PLC, and then we can do this project really quickly. The, OEM side will make you do everything yourself. And that, I think, was really, really helpful in opening my eyes to what I could accomplish in the amount of time. Because, coming from the systems integrator side, that was all I saw. So I just kind of thought that was, the path. Was to, start from, because there's different levels normally in a systems integrator because they have multiple levels of engineers. That's not really the same with OEM, because they just have, they have senior and like regular, and that's it. And it's like, if you've been there forever, you'll get senior, but you're doing the same. You have to do all of it. You can't just be like, I'm really good at HMI and that's what I'm going to do. Like, no, like you're going to do that even if you don't like it. And so I guess that's, and the field work. When you get to go out in the field, nothing is more valuable than that. So with OEMs, and I was still going out in the field. Like I had really good experiences with Maverick, and got to see some of the plants that even today, like I want to get back in those plants, because that was amazing what I could see. But I forgot what I was talking about.
I do have another question.
I told you I would blank every 15 minutes.
Quite all right. Like I said,
it happened.
I could definitely fill space. So one of the things I noticed, we have been in a lot of the same places. So you graduated in Hawaii, and I was in Hawaii the year you graduated, I think, from high school. Literally.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 2006.
That's
okay.
Right. My daughter actually was in a big gymnastics competition.
Cool.
I think the town whatever town you were from, which was.
Wow. Kailua Kona?
From Hawaii.
It's on the opposite side of Hilo.
Yeah. Oh, the other side of Hilo. Okay. It was a different kind. It was a different Kailua. There's another one.
Oh, there is a Kailua on Oahu. Yes.
That's the one my daughter was at.
My best friend lives there. Okay.
I wanted to ask you about was Ventana Systems in Tucson.
Oh, yes.
I grew up there, and I know somebody who works there.
Wow.
I'm going to run a name by you.
Okay.
Benny McGarry.
I don't know the name.
It's a girl and not a guy.
Oh.
Benny.
Oh.
Right?
I don't know her.
Yeah.
Cool.
So she works at Ventana, has been there a long time, and her husband is a big integrator, works for the ones who do a bunch of wastewater, CH2M Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a big integrator out of, I think he has to drive to Phoenix every day, even though they live up there in that Oracle area near Ventana, right? But what did you do for Ventana?
So that was my first job. When I graduated, there was no work. It was 2010. And they were like, it was like 2 years after like the 2008, really low time. And so 2010 came, it was like, we don't need engineers. So I actually ended up getting a job it was a research associate is what they called me. And so I didn't have an engineering title, and I didn't even work for the engineering department, but I worked with the engineers. But who hired me was actually the research department. So I worked for scientists. So I worked for a whole bunch of PhDs in chemistry and biochemistry, and I was taking their reagents. So they do lots of biochem stuff. They were actually doing staining for hematoxylin and eosin, tissue staining. And so they were trying to automate this. And so they had, a whole team of scientists, and they wanted me to I was making material compatibility charts. So, that's like, this material will totally blow up if you put this on it, so I was babysitting 500 jars. And that was my job, was to make these charts, according to ASTM, make these chemical compatibility charts. So I'd take whatever reagents they had and then go to the engineers and be like, so what plastics and metals are you using in the machine? And then take samples of that and just create these charts, because they didn't exist. There was not, they didn't pre-check these types of different rubbers with hematoxylin. Like, that's insane. Why would they do that? So we had to do that. We had to custom do that. And so they needed someone to do that. And I was a chemical engineer, so I, at least knew what chemicals are. And that was relevant enough. And that's where I started. And I remember thinking back then, I was like, I hope I actually can be an engineer someday, because I'm going to sit here and do these jars, and that's cool. But I hope, I actually was worried that I wasn't going to be able to be an engineer, because I, had to, start here, and that was where it was going to be. And I don't know, that it was interesting that I had that thought, but those were really good times, and I made really good friends. And I'm actually going to a wedding in October for a friend of mine who I met at Ventana Medical Systems. And that was like 10 years ago. I made really good friends in that place. And they have amazing views, of the, is it the Catalinas?
Yeah, Catalina Mountain.
Yeah, the view of the Catalinas from Ventana Medical Systems is a massive selling point. If you want to work in Tucson, you want to work at Ventana.
until
That's all
you're
I'm
there in July or August and you burn your hands in your car. Yeah, that's the tough part.
I I used to forget every day when I lived in Phoenix for 6 years.
Oh, okay.
And so I would forget that I had the AC on blast at my eyes. So I would get back in the car and it's like 115 in the car and turn it on. And I'm just like, it's like an oven shooting hot air into your eyes.
Exactly. I couldn't wait to move away.
Like over and over and over again.
I'm not an Arizona fan. I got out of Tucson as fast as I could.
I liked Tucson.
Yeah. Well, where you were is a good part of Tucson. You're right up against the mountains.
That's true.
Foothills.
That's true. The roads are no bueno.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to fix their roads for sure. Too many potholes, Tucson.
Your interests here, right? This is a pretty, listing all these broad categories, and boy, this is broad, right? Cybersecurity.
Yes.
SCADA, which includes data historians, and of course, networking is necessary. P&IDs goes with your process control background. Of course, safety systems, which is more machine control, but definitely applies also to process. Motion control, robotics, servos, Allen Bradley, and of course, I see a lot of your S7 1200s. It looks like you got one of those, and you're starting to play around with it, which is cool.
Yes.
Fortunately, you're not dealing with this old Step 7. That's a whole different animal, but TIA Portal's great. It's pretty easy to use. So
yeah, I've heard that they did a huge they did a good job of stop scaring people away from Siemens with TIA Portal.
That's right. Very cool. So what's you got a favorite SCADA platform?
Ignition. Yeah. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't even be answering these. Do I have a favorite one? I worked a lot with Rockwell's SCADA, and it's good. But also for historians, OSI Pi I think is really cool.
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, Rockwell, one of the it's high dollar, right? That's one of the downsides.
Yes.
It is down there in the working man's budget, and of course, Inductive University, right? Awesome, great way to learn. If any of you watching this have an interest in that, I would definitely recommend taking the Inductive University classes. It will get you as far into SCADA as pretty much as you want to. And of course, I had TatSoft on here. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
Yeah, so I had them on here. It was one of my webinars, and they are another good alternative. They're working on the school part, on the training part, but they're even a little less expensive than Inductive Automation's products.
Okay.
Probably because they're just getting into the market, but a lot of capability also. So
have you heard of Copa Data Xenon?
No.
For SCADA?
Nope.
So it's actually used in Crohn's machines. You're familiar with Crohn's?
Yeah.
So yeah, that I've started getting into that.
Okay.
Looking at that, there's a lot of good ones out there.
There are, and I think a lot of times you're stuck with kind of what the customer specifies if you go with the existing system. So Siemens, right, WinCC, like it or hate it, it's a whole different set of keystrokes and different methods of doing things than Rockwell or Inductive, right? But you get used to it, and you have to deal with, what's there.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good to know multiples so that you can go back to your customer and tell them, I know that this other SCADA can do this thing that, you're having problems with. And it's obviously not easy to just change SCADAs. That's a huge topic in itself is, if you were upset or wanted something different, how would you go about, upgrading or changing which SCADA you had? And people do that. It happens, but it's usually a complex process, right?
Yeah, I would call it a
complex.
Yeah, to a degree. You can't do it all at once. You have one, and then you start implementing a little bit of the other. And sometimes you end up with multiples at the end, right? Yeah. Or a mixture, which I don't know how much you follow of Walker Reynolds stuff, right? That's all over all over LinkedIn. And of course, one of his statements is, you want to not have to depend on all the systems integrators. There's, 10 of them, 10 different people that put 10 different things in your plant, and you're having to depend on those 10 different companies. So he likes the idea that, okay, put something in there and it's consistent across the board, and you can handle it with less people, or it handles itself. Unified namespace. There we go. Carlos Colon just commented unified namespace. That's right. Yeah. So I've been watching a lot of his stuff. He is a very knowledgeable guy. Lots of information. We all have to make our own judgments as to how it applies. But yeah.
Sure. I think with that, it's interesting just because, there's a lot of specialty machinery that, yes, you could fight the OEM and say, you have to use my PLC, but, it's going to be cheaper to just have I know he doesn't like the systems integrators, but it's just going to be simpler to have a systems integrator that can work with all of those skids. If you have all these different machinery skids and their specialty, and you need to have them, you can't just go in there and make it all one thing. It wouldn't be so easy. So I guess with those, I wish he was here to comment on that.
Well, I think learning certain things, for instance, I do a lot of beverage work, and I've had to learn Seidel and Tetra Pak in particular, and those are the vendors, and they're not going to change their platforms. In the case of Seidel, they put a lot of Siemens Step 7 400s, big systems for their blowers. I imagine they've migrated a little bit now, but then, and again, I get with Tetra Pak, and they have these old GE 9030s on a lot of their stuff, and they've migrated now to Allen Bradley, which makes it a little more user friendly than the old stuff. But you're right.
That's good.
You have to deal with what's there, and of course have the software for it. And
it could be a machine from another country, so it's not Allen Bradley.
That's right.
Sorry, but it isn't. Yeah. So
we don't make much beverage stuff here in this country for some reason. Seidel seems to have a big lock on the market for the big beverage companies, and that I think they're Italian or whatever, but they tend to use a lot of Siemens. And it is what it is, right? They put some Allen Bradley in too, but you can tell it's not their native platform. So what kind of motion control and robotics do you typically do?
So I like Allen Bradley for this, but I just got into like the 6-axis thanks to Vanguard Vision, and got into Fanuc. And my first time jogging a robot, I absolutely fell in love with that. I don't even know how to describe what that feels like. Because once you get used to, because I was, I would think other people are probably intimidated too when they look at the teach pendant, because there's 1,000 buttons on there, but it really isn't anywhere near as complex as I thought it would be. But that first class, I really recommend that class. If you don't know anything about robots at all, and you go to that class, like it will open your mind. It definitely recommend just the basics of tool frames and user frames, and just where the robot thinks is home. Like, how does the robot then once you understand like what the robot thinks, like then you're like, oh, okay. And motion instructions, like that makes so much sense to designate speed and designate, there's something called I forgot what it's actually called, but in the actual motion instruction, you can either select continuous or fine. And it just means, you'll blow past that point when it's part of, the motion, or you'll actually want to stop there. But, just like the basics of motion instructions was, I thought, amazing, really cool.
So I think
just coming, because I came from PID loops, and just, if this is on, turn this on, really basic discrete controls, with some PID loops in there, and some monitoring and alarming and stuff like that. But this was new to work in this 3D space. And I saw the right hand rule again. I hadn't seen that since forever. Since physics. I think robotics is really cool. I think there's so many applications, and we're just getting started. We're just getting started and putting all these applications into place. So there's a lot of a wave of robotics coming.
So you and Carlos, I think he mentioned GE Fanuc. Is that what you were? Was that what you were using as GE, the Fanuc robots?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've seen Carlos mention that a few times. And speaking of specialty and machinery,
Here it is.
There's some specialty machinery. So I see your home lab, and actually yesterday I spent a lot of my time sorting out a lot of my Arduino and Raspberry Pi stuff, which is not really related to turbo encabulators necessarily, but it could be.
It is, though.
So
yes, no, it totally is.
This side is my version of a turbo encabulator. This is an old Siemens 7, but I'm actually starting to build a lot more with the Raspberry Pi stuff, and I'll jump here to your little Raspberry Pi setup there. That was very cool, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty.
I brought that out. Yeah, I'm gonna mine for Bitcoin. I'm just kidding.
There you go.
The turbo encabulator, just for background, right? There's a turbo encabulator and a retro encabulator.
That's right.
So there's a history here. And so the turbo encabulator was first. And I think that one was Chrysler. And then Rockwell did another one that was just as good. I thought it was really good. They're both really good. And if you watch them, you will laugh every single time if you get the joke. Now, there is the issue of if you're just getting started with some of this technology, then this joke could be confusing. So I want to, or if you're not familiar with the videos, or familiar with, just that type of humor, because even some people don't even get that kind of humor. So I've heard of people watching those videos and just like not getting it. They're like, I don't get it. And that's because they think, any of it could be valid. So to start off with, it's a huge spoof on overcomplicating and using way too, it's like trying to intimidate people by using the most complex words you can. And he does it with a straight face. And it's so funny because it's all made up. It's all bull crap. Now, there are some real things that they mention in there, but for the most part, they put them together and they're absolute bull crap. So because of that, I always loved that. And I was like, what am I going to name this thing? And so I was building a demo box. It's a demonstration box. Like that's what the turbo encabulator is. It just has a funny name. So I have a home lab to show industrial automation concepts that you would use in real industrial automation. But I gave it the name turbo encabulator because I love that video. And, and with the turbo encabulator like theme, I can add some sci-fi into this. So I can name my buttons whatever I want. Right? Like I have a real PLC here and I have real lights, but I can make the lights named whatever I want. So, it's just it's having fun. It's having fun and it's a way to teach. But I should have been more clear in some of these videos about like which parts are the real, concepts. And because I would keep referencing the turbo encabulator and it's like, what is this thing? Is it real? Like, what's going on? And so I'm kind of glad that you put these pictures out here because now I can actually talk about it. So the body of the turbo encabulator is like a Pelican case that was for a manometer. It was an X-Tech case. So I had a manometer and I never used a case because that's way too big for the manometer. So I had the box and I was like, I need a wall. I don't have a piece of wood. I don't have a piece of metal right now for, to put the HMI in to make and put these lights in. So I'm like, I was just envisioning like a board and I'm like, I have this box right here. So I just started making holes in the box. So I actually have old pictures of me just like messing around. And I did not plan any of this. So there are no wiring diagrams. There are no, there's no drawings. There's no drawings of like, this layout, like the red light goes on the left and the blue, nothing. I have nothing. I just started making holes and putting this together. And then, but I've done this so much that, I have a PLC and I can make the outputs turn the lights on. So I start wiring, you know, it's just like I start wiring, and then I reverse engineered, like went into the code and I was like, okay, let's find out which ones I actually connected to what outputs. And, you know, went and, you know, turned my switches and went and put actually notes. I did it backwards. This is backwards. Like, that's not how you do this. Like, and created, sorry, I don't know where.
Dan just made a comment. No, absolutely not. Anyone that doesn't understand the brilliance of your turbo encapsulator needs to sit down and be quiet. Very good.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, so I built this thing. It has just little pieces that you will see in real industrial controls. There's an HMI there. I was trying to demonstrate 4 to 20 milliamps. So analog signals coming from regular transmitters. I actually have some transmitters. I have a temperature transmitter and a pressure transmitter. That's part of this. I have a little 4 to 20 milliamp actuated valve. So it's a little motorized control valve. I have, you know, some Fanuc meters that can generate 4 to 20 milliamps so that I can, you know, show, you know, driving either actuators or my little VFD. I haven't actually shown you guys the VFD running because I got to find a non-GFCI circuit in my apartment. I actually remember running into like that whole GFCI thing, like back when in my OEM days, and we'd just be like, oh crap, we can't use these, because we would just plug it in and yeah, instantly not be able to run any of the roasters. I remember those days, but so I'll get to that. We'll get there. But yeah, right now I was just like, I'll just run this, and every time like, oh, there goes the lights again. They're like, Allie, no more. So
I can't read what's on the e-stop. It says Leroy something. What does that say now?
Okay, so Leroy Jenkins.
Leroy Jenkins. I've heard of
Leroy Jenkins. So Leroy Jenkins this must have came out. It's a video, and it must have came out. It's World of Warcraft, so it's online gaming, right? And they made this video, and this guy named Leroy Jenkins, just like they're in the middle of the strategy talk, and this is like a hyped up, like they're very nervous about this, and Leroy just runs in and just starts shooting like at baby dragons, and like it just everyone's like, oh my god, like, and when he does it, he runs in, he goes, Leroy Jenkins, and everyone's like, oh my god, like we're gonna lose now. And so yeah, it was, yeah, yes, best gaming moment, yes, ever.
There you
go. So that button, you know, is relevant in life when you just need to run in, and you can't think. And now in Leroy's case, like he totally screwed over his entire team, but that's not what this is about. Like this is about sometimes you just gotta go. That's what that button is. But yeah, that it's got that reference, and some people get that reference and some people unfortunately don't, but it's a very good moment, and there are many videos online. And I think I became aware of this in like 2008 or 7-ish. So it's old. It's an old World of Warcraft reference.
There we go.
I did play some WoW, but that didn't last very long.
Yeah, I get involved with the gaming community myself, so that's where I've definitely heard of that.
Okay, cool.
So technical question for you. How do you calibrate the Marsal vanes with the reciprocal arm?
Well, you want to have the proper calibration equipment. That's all I got to say about that.
There we go.
And that's expensive. Yeah, I actually don't have any for the Marsal vanes,
and
because I couldn't afford it.
Fanuc may not make it. Fanuc may not. Yeah,
you're right. It may have to be
a specific tool.
Maybe Boeing or Lockheed Martin can make that. So we can go and ask them for a quote. Yeah, so I have a lot of tools because I actually used to take these tools and do stuff with them. I don't anymore, but I would like to do it more. But I can wire, obviously. I have all the tools for wiring. but additional tools if I have to build. So I kind of added on to my, because at first it was just like, I need to travel around. I just need to get into stuff and then wire on the, you know, on the fly. Sometimes like, oh crap, we didn't put this contactor in, or we didn't put this relay in, or this relay didn't get wired. Oops. Like, sorry, like, can you go do that real quick? Or we sent you the part because it was broken, right? Like you got to redo it, whatever. Like there's a million reasons why you may have to, when you're starting up equipment, have to, you know, use tools. Same thing with the meters. You know, there's a million reasons that I have meters for motors. I mean, I can do installation, test. I can test low voltage insulation and high voltage insulation as long as it's fully, you know, what is it? Why am I blanking? Isolated, sorry. When it's fully isolated, then I can do all of those. And then there's also, I have 4 to 20 milliamp sourcing that I can do. So that can be used for calibration of valves, 4 to 20 milliamp valves. Usually that's the 0 to the 100% open. And you know, it doesn't matter what kind of valve it is. I know normally it's 0 to 90 degrees is the true motion for the 4 to 20 milliamps, but in the PLC, it's always looks like 0 to 100%. It's usually looking at percent when you're doing it. Usually not in degrees, but you could do it that way if you want. What else? I got that big clamp because, you know, just, I can't use the little clamp. You can't even put the little baby clamp on anything more than 30 volts DC. And I did that at one point and broke it. So don't do that. And it's also directional. So mind, it's like a check valve, like mind the arrow on the little bitty mini clamp, but it's really helpful just because you don't have to break the circuit. Because that can be super annoying to have to actually like put your meter in the loop, like in, yeah, it's to read the 4 to 20 milliamps. So, you know, if you don't want to do that, you get this other, but it's not cheap. So, but I've put posts, or I've posted all kinds of cheaper meters, but you have to watch out for the category rating. So just, you know, whatever you're buying, just make sure that, you know, and if you're not getting something that's category rating, keep it away from real voltages then. It's like, okay, you're only going to play this over in this super low and you already checked it because, you know, you got to protect yourself. And the people that you are using the meters, what if you buy meters for somebody else? Like, you better tell them, please tell them. And please, you know, everybody learn about category ratings and meters. And yeah, some of these tools are highly insulated, but nothing should be live when you're working on it. But a lot of those tools are insulated. And I've been in situations where because they were insulated, like I didn't get shocked and then went and didn't know the panel was on, or I forgot because I turned it on. I forgot the panel was on and I hadn't started that entire panel at all. So no lights were on. So it was like, oh, this must be off, and it wasn't. So I don't know. I wish I could just put that out there. Just like, please don't forget. Please don't forget. And please always just don't get comfortable with electricity, please. Yeah. Please respect how easy it could be your last day with this stuff.
Yeah. They, of course, a lot of plants will put you through the whole lockout, tag out process, and you know, make sure you have all your equipment and everything. Now,
but that's not necessarily when you're
had to work
starting.
on live equipment, live 480, and work on and wire it while it was live. I've had to do that before. Not advised, right? Not something I would recommend, but there are times when I've had to do that in the past.
Wild, yeah.
That's strictly legal anymore.
Nope. It wasn't when I did it either. Yes, arc flash. Arc flash is an important, also sensitive topic, right? Because it's also getting to the point where arc flash is almost keeping us totally out of the panels. So it's I don't know, that we got to meet somewhere halfway, but we also need safety. So, you know, it's like we do need mostly master electricians going in those panels and nobody else, but there is need sometimes, especially in the startup process, for that to not be the case. because the master electrician isn't a controls engineer. Maybe they are, but if they're not, we do need, OEMs need to have their people start things up. And, you can't, some of the stuff you cannot troubleshoot without it. We got to run it. We got to run the pumps or run the blowers, and commissioning, and so you can't do any of this stuff. And if there's issues, yes, you should have a master electrician there, but he's not going to be the only one in there. Or we need to figure something out, like, and all OEMs have to have master electricians, or we all have to go get our master electrician licenses, whatever. We have to figure out something, because this arc flash stuff is, but it is about getting us, it's about safety at least, because that is the most important thing, is, there is a potential to die in front of these panels if you don't know what you're doing. And you better know what arc flash was, because I was playing with panels before I knew what that even was. And that's not okay, I don't think. I think that if you're even in the panel, then you know what that is. You know what that is, all about NFPA 70E, right? Like, or you won't even go inside of one. I mean, you don't have to be an electrician to read NEC. So, or NFPA anything. You can own a copy of any NFPA you want. No one will stop you. And I highly recommend that if you're going to go inside of panels. Otherwise, just stay out of there. Don't go in there. Stay out. Please stay out of there unless you're going to educate yourself about your own safety. Please.
So one of the pictures, I wish I would have put it in here, but have you ever seen where you open the door, the enclosure door, and there's a flip up table inside for your laptop?
Yes.
So that kind of is an oxymoron, because you're in a live panel, you're programming, right? You have this thing set up, and in many plants, they make you wear gloves. And it's really hard to type on a computer when you're wearing gloves, right? Especially if they're big leather gloves. They just don't fit on the keys. So
along those same lines, the programming port is now a giant thing, right? Like, I always put them in, and now I'm like, oh, okay, I see why we don't do that. Yeah, and I love them, right? Like, why wouldn't we? Are the programmer, we would like a port, but we need to give our ports up. Sorry, like because I love like Grace port. I love those. I love Grace port, but it's like, yeah, we're just, right now with the insane amount of interest that, black hat hackers all over the world are very fascinated with PLCs right now. And then they're not going to stop being fascinated. They're actually teaching each other and learning more and more and more about how to get on, how to find us, which ports we're on, like what PID loops do, how they work. It's actually really terrifying how much interest they're taking in this stuff. Because they weren't doing this before, and we don't have the systems in place for this. Mostly don't. IT will tell you they got it, right? Like, IT will say, we got it. We knew this was, we knew this was going on. Like, no, you didn't. But yeah, so we're at that stage now, and part of that you saw, those were my interests. Cybersecurity is part of my interest. I'm not a hacker. I don't have Cisco network certification, although I want to get that. And I recommend other people do that, but you have to have a partner. If you don't know what to do, then get a technology partner. If you're a controls engineer, start asking them to show you some demos. Go to Seiko Maya, go to Tofino, go to Tossibox, go align yourself with the people that are protecting the ICS, and specifically go after people that are ICS or OT specialists. So ICS, industrial control systems, or OT is IT's word for us, is operational technology, is our PLCs and our HMIs and our pumps and our VFDs and all our crap. So that they call 3.0, right? We are the 3.0. And yeah, so if you don't know what to do when you're scared, which you should be, you need a partner, and you need to know who those people are. You need to listen to the people out there that are giving advice. Josh Varghese is one of them. Go and find out who's offering who's offering to, you know, provide this technology and learn about. Hearing Seiko Maya keep coming up, and I've heard people come from other, like I've heard process engineers tell me they like Seiko Maya. Like, process engineers, cool. Like, they're getting into, they have to protect their stuff like now, and then they're getting into that. So they're like, yeah, I love that thing. Like, I love working inside that, their little managers or whatever. And so yeah, like cybersecurity is not IT's job anymore. It's our job. Process is getting in on it. Like mechanic, everybody's like, we got to all know. Our operations people are now like, okay, like they know which programs are in place. Like they have logins so they can go respond to things that happen with this new, you know, I don't know. It's very, it's collaborative, but we all need to be in on it, but we all need to be super interested. I think, I don't know. It's the time of ignoring that is super gone. It's gone.
Are you drinking the Stratix Kool-Aid? Stratix?
No. Nope. Cisco all the way.
Yeah, I've seen nothing but configuration problems with that. That's all I hear, is that how difficult it is to configure. And I do have one customer. Yeah, I have one customer that's all they use, but almost all the other ones have been able to avoid it. And I haven't noticed a big difference in the threats. Again, unless somebody targets you, you don't know whether you're being threatened, right? Probably any of the good hackers can break through just about anything you put out there anyway, right? The really good, obviously they're getting into
it's arguable. Sure.
Well, if you have an air gap, now even air gaps have their own issues, but
oh yes, no, nothing is 100% secure.
Nothing is 100% secure. And obviously when it's a government level entity, you know, it's pretty hard to defeat something like that has millions and maybe billions of dollars to invest in things. Somebody commented, yeah, Carlos, is social engineering. That's right, dollars. Yeah. So, okay, what else we got here? So I actually made a space for some notes, although it doesn't look like I can edit. One of the things I was going to ask you, do you have a website, or other than LinkedIn, do you have a forum that you use to talk to people and put your material?
I will, but I don't yet. It's not live. So it is pce.llc. But I don't have it yet. It's not up. So I will hurry up.
There we go. And if not, right, everybody can find you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Alicia Gilpin, Ali G, and the spelling is here, right?
Yes.
They can read that. And that's a good place to find you right now. But meanwhile, obviously you are out there doing jobs and talking to folks. And it's interesting that you and I both know Carlos, right? Down in Florida. We actually got to hang out. I got to hang out with him and his lovely wife down in Tampa and see a lot of the fancy part of Tampa, which I don't know that I'd ever seen some of that. We got to walk down a little river walk there. That was kind of nice. Carlos,
I hope to do that soon.
Yeah.
Yes. No, Carlos and Vanguard Vision are a huge part of me going out on my own, actually.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah. And I imagine Carlos is involved with a lot of different things, including life sciences. So hopefully he'll be able to bring you in on different jobs and things. Looks like maybe you've frozen here. So there we are.
Oh, hi, back.
There you are.
I don't know what was the last thing I said.
You just kind of froze. It might have been the Marshallbeans. I don't know.
Yeah, it says my internet connection is unstable.
Aha.
No, I was. Oh yes, I will go to Tampa.
Yes,
I will.
Yep.
To meet with Carlos, and we're going to be at Pack Expo. I'm going with Carlos to Pack Expo.
And where is that this year?
Vegas.
Okay, it's been in Chicago before. I go there.
Okay.
Because it's close. I can actually drive, but Vegas is a bit of a drive. So, but we do have a direct flight from here in Nashville. So
nice.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. I when is it?
Next week, the 27th through the 29th.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
Yes, you should come, Frank.
Yeah, it says, Frank, you should go with us.
There's
Well,
gonna be so many cool machines. Oh my God. I'm so excited. When I saw the list of companies going, I was like, oh.
the bad thing is
Really?
I book up all my time a week and 2 weeks ahead of time. And so unless I know a month or 2 months ahead, then I can really reserve time. But, you know, I definitely would have gone if I would have known you guys were going. I probably would have reserved that week. That would have been cool. See what else we got here. No notes. Like I said, I can't, if I click on this, I can't edit it without going into edit mode. So I usually put these little put PowerPoints together just so people don't have to only look at us. So what's the owl all about up here? You're on your flute.
I like owls.
I like owls too.
That came from the Tucson days. I always had like owl figurines. I don't know. I just like them.
Okay. It almost looks
and
like
I think
right on the
we
corner.
had one. Yeah, it was there. And I saw the owl and I'm like, I have an owl that looks just like that shape. Because everyone always accentuates how big their eyes are. Yeah, just like owls.
Very cool.
I like all animals though.
Okay, well, we're right up against our time. We've had a great hour here of discussion. Anybody have any questions? Let's see. I see some typed stuff. No specific questions. Any questions for Alicia, Ali G? Anybody else want to
Thank you for your
sing?
time.
There's Carlos. He unmuted for a second. What's up with you, Carlos?
Good here, enjoying this. This is very interesting.
Thank you, Joseph.
I think that's Carlos, but I do see.
Oh, Carlos.
Commented.
No, I saw a note. Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
No, I say that yeah, here enjoying this information and everything. This is awesome. All the things that she can do, right? I think she has more tools than me, so I have to start buying things.
Well, I'm working on catching up with you too, Carlos. I haven't been doing the home automation stuff, but I think I'm up to 5 Raspberry Pis and about maybe 10 or 15 Arduinos. And I'm
That's a lot of Bitcoin you could mine.
It's a lot of Bitcoin. Yeah. What I'm actually doing is I build a lot of little simulators. And one of my next simulators is I'm going to use an Arduino to build a VFD, a tiny one, that you can use the Raspberry Pi to make the VFD run, right? And show a little bit about control with that. So I had a guy named Philip Scruggs on here. He's one of the members at the Automation Academy. And we talked a lot about using microcontrollers and small computers like a Raspberry Pi in industry and what it takes to do it. And I think the consensus was there is some stuff out there. I'm gonna put a plug in here for Pi plates. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Pi plates. You'll have to look it up online, but what they do is they build little platforms where you can build a Raspberry Pi and stack multiple levels and hang it on DIN rail. Yeah, so you can put a hat on a hat on a hat on a hat.
Oh,
right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
On DIN rail?
And mounted on DIN rail. Yes, he's out of Atlanta.
Wow.
And he does a lot of Raspberry Pi accessories, and he's making it more industrially hardened. I hope to have him on here at some point because
Yes.
yeah,
What's that guy's name?
I forget his name. I have it in my email, but the name of the company is Pi Plates, P-I, I think hyphen plates. So look it up online. But one of the things he's done is he's built a method of multiplexing. So when you put the hat on, he said the problem's always been, it's just the pin out. But if you can stack things and basically multiplex and select which level you want to use. So he's got some really cool stuff. I would encourage anybody to go online. I'd love to have him as a guest. I think it's Robert Wagner or something like that, but I don't think that's the right name because that's like a movie star, Robert Wagner. So, but it's been great sharing this time with you. The next webinar, I don't even have a date for. I usually do it every 2 weeks, usually on Fridays, but Ali and I kind of talked about just doing it on a Thursday, and it's 10 o'clock her time, 12 o'clock my time. and very convenient time. So I don't have a guest yet. I don't know when it's going to be, but I'll put something out there on LinkedIn and of course on YouTube. I'm Automatic Eye, or if you look at Automation Consulting LLC, you will see this webinar in its entirety, and I'll post a link on LinkedIn also. It's great seeing everybody. Dan, I think you've got a fan there, Ali. I think Dan likes watching what you're doing too.
I'm a huge fan of Dan too.
Yeah, I see a lot of Dan's material online. He posts a lot of stuff. All right, well, it's been great seeing everybody, and thanks for showing up, and we'll catch you on the next time.
Thanks, Frank. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.